Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive. Daniel here. I hope you are doing well, and if you're not, I hope you are soon. Okay, something a little bit different today. I'm going to return to the world of video games, and I wanted to shed some light on a game that I have been playing and liking a lot. And it's a game that I don't see a lot of people talking about right now. And it is a game that I think has a lot to offer to viewers of the Dungeon Dive, to fans of tabletop RPGs and board games, and adventure games in general. And that is a game called Unexplored 2, The Wayfarer's Legacy. And that's from Big Sugar. And that was the official kind of final version was released, I think it was like May 27th, 2022. So Unexplored 2 is kind of one of those new kind of roguelite games. It has permadeath. Your characters die and you continue to play the game in the world. It has a legacy element where from character to character, you are slowly building up like knowledge and gear and stats. So each subsequent run in the game can be a little, you can do a little better each time. But I think this game has a lot going for it that just makes it feel a little bit different than a lot of these newer kind of roguelike games. And it feels more like a tabletop RPG or more like a kind of a grand adventurous experience type game. It does feel as much like a tabletop game as For the King does. And For the King is a video game that I have talked about before on the channel. Just a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, I did a video on some of my favorite board game-like video games. And For the King was at the top of that list. And I think Unexplored 2 is also going to be at the top of that list. So your main quest, the main thing you're trying to do in the game, is your character is trying to destroy the Staff of Yonder. It's this magical relic that has a lot of power, and it kind of like attracts evil. So your main story is just trying to destroy this relic for the fate of the world. As a wayfarer, it is up to you to take this staff to a legendary location called the First Valley and dispose of it. The thing is you don't know where the First Valley is, and you have this huge, vast world, and you have to travel, you have to talk to NPCs, you have to gather information, you have to explore the map, get new gear, and find out how to enter into this First Valley. When you first start a game, a random world is seeded and created, and this is the world that you will be playing in until you decide to generate a new one. And the world is persistent while your character is not. After the world is created, you create a character, or you can have one randomly generated. Character creation is pretty quick, but it also does have a lot of variety, especially as you start unlocking new classes and skills as you continue to play, and as old characters die. As you discover new things in the world, you can unlock new things to start your character with. There's also a very large selection of toggles that you can assign, of certain things you can assign to your game to make the game easier or harder. And I really do appreciate that. There's a lot there are a large number of options. So you really can tailor the game to the exact kind of experience that you want. If you want a game that is super difficult with a lot of survival elements and really challenging combat, and where you have to really manage your gear and your stats and your food and your survival elements, you can make the game like that. If you want to just explore the world and go lore hunting and have an easier time and just enjoy your time in the world, you can also set the game to be like that, or really anything in between. It is a real bellwether of options in these kinds of games, and I do really appreciate that. The skills that you pick are very interesting because they are also kind of like a currency. Because as your character takes damage, as they get wounds, as they become tired, And just as they get worn down from their adventuring, you will not be able to use the skills that you have chosen. So the skills are also kind of this like secondary set of hit points. It's a really interesting system. But the skills help you overcome different challenges. And I think this is one of the coolest aspects of the game, as well as the one that is the most tabletop-like. So, yeah, Unexplored 2 has a really strong tabletop RPG and board game vibe. And this is especially true in the non-combat event challenges. This part of the game is like a bag builder, where your ultimate goal is to draw success chits from the bag while avoiding failure chits. You have a certain number of draws, and as you are drawing things out, you might draw chits that coincide with the skills you have chosen if those skills are apt for the challenge at hand. For instance, if you have like a bartering skill and you meet a trader, you might be able to get your prices lower by doing this little bag builder game, mini game. The same thing is when you're trying to decipher these relics out in the world. All of these little challenges, each skill you have that coincides with that challenge, you will have a better pool of chits which you are drawing from. And as you draw chits, as long as you don't end up with a failure chit, a little text box appears that kind of tells a little story of your progress. So there is this narrative element of the bag building minigame. And it is just really, really cool. I enjoy it a lot. And even though it is a board game mechanism, it utilizes the fact that it is a video game in a way that a board game could not, by having a whole bunch of chits and by creating that narrative element each time you draw a new chit. You also have a currency that you can collect in the various dungeons of the game. And this currency is something that you can spend so you can pick more chits out of your bag in this kind of like press your luck system. The world of Unexplored 2 is vast and open. You travel the Overland map via a node system. And as you travel from node to node, it's actually like a little meeple. So, I mean, again, the tabletop elements are very strong. It's actually a little meeple that moves from node to node. And as you travel from node to node, your character will have to overcome different challenges. These could be environmental challenges, combat, dialogue challenges, etc. You will gain information about how dangerous your journey is in a little text box, and you will have to monitor the status of your journey gear. Your gear wears down over time, and as it wears down, you will lose protection from various elements such as cold or wet. You might have maps that wear down over time, and so you have a better chance of getting lost while you are on your journey. And as you get lost, you will have more and more random encounters, more combat encounters, more adverse encounters as you are making your way towards your final destination. And these final destinations are represented on the map by these major nodes. And the major nodes on the map, these are locations where you can go questing and where you will go on adventures. And these might be dungeons or caves, castles, forests, swamps, all of those mountain ranges, all of those typical kind of environments in adventure games. And some of these will be short and only take a few minutes to explore and fight and loot, while some are quite vast with multiple levels and maze-like and puzzle-like qualities. These areas are played in a more traditional action RPG way, where you will be moving your character around the screen. You will be using various weapons and armor and magic to fight enemies, to avoid enemies, to sneak around, open treasure chests, look for keys, and that kind of thing. When your character dies, and they will die, it's a pretty challenging game, you will have the option to continue playing in the world that was initially created. After death, you will see how the world progresses over a few years as different factions become stronger, some become weaker, factions fight each other, creatures move around on the map, new places develop, new things appear. And you will see this played out on your Overland map. Then when you create a new character, your new character is a descendant of your last character. and you play over many generations in this game. If on previous adventures you have found legacy gear, this will be waiting for your new character in the main town of Haven, where you can pick up. So as you go on adventures, as your characters start gaining more legacy gear and taking it back to your main town, your new characters will start their adventures a little bit stronger. So progress is made both by character and mechanical progression within the game, and also by your knowledge as a player. The world is filled with interesting elements, and the game is a real joy to explore. The sense of adventure is really off the charts, and it just fills me with a lot of joy and wonder playing this game. My knowledge as a player with how the different creatures and environmental aspects and the different regions and the different environmental hazards, how those impact my character. Each time I play the game, I as a player learn something new, while my character in the game is also learning new skills and getting new legacy gear to pass on to its descendants, and exploring the map, filling out the map. So when I start a new character, I have more nodes to travel to, more ways to traverse the map. And as I slowly work my way towards finding that first valley and finding that ultimate destination where I need to take the Staff of Yonder and destroy it. I have not beaten the game yet. I don't even think I'm close. I'm playing it very slowly. It is a very kind of chill vibe game. It's not a fast-paced action game. It's a nice game to just kind of like kick back on the couch with a cup of coffee and play through an entire adventure. Maybe your character dies. Maybe you take all of your gear back to Haven and you retire that character and just start a new one. So you have a couple legs up on your new adventures. But I really cannot recommend Unexplored 2: The Wayfarer's Legacy enough to fans of the Dungeon Dive. If you have not played it yet, I highly recommend it. It gives me that same feeling of a lot of my favorite board games. Games like Runebound and Talisman and Hexplore It and Sleeping Gods. But the game handles a lot of the crunch in the background for me, so it's very effortless for me to get into. And as you are all aware, I'm like a broken record here, but I am all about kind of effortless fun right now. And yeah, I am absolutely loving Unexplored 2: The Wayfarer's Legacy. So, all right, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and we will talk to you later. Bye-bye.